Hi friends, this is Manish Pandey. Welcome back to UiPath Forms tutorial series. In my previous video, we explored how to create triggers in UiPath Forms and demonstrated how to use the run local trigger and the stop local trigger activity. If you haven't seen that video yet, I recommend checking it out first for better context. In this video, we are taking a step further. We will debug Bookmark Application Form Triggers to understand how they actually work during execution. I will also explain the role of run local trigger, stop local trigger, and Triggers.Generated workflow file. And I will also explain about how trigger scope activity works. So let's get started. Before we proceed, let's quickly revisit the bookmark application form. And then I will debug this process and explain each and everything step by step on how trigger works. So we have taken here show form activity which will show form here to users, and then user can click on the buttons and set the triggers here. Now run local trigger will start all the local triggers. And then from the form, if you click on notepad, it will open the specific trigger workflow and it will execute that. Whatever steps, actions added in this workflow, that will be executed. Now, I will debug this workflow to show how trigger works. Let's go to debug and let's highlight this element so that we can see a step by step. And now let's click on step into F11 from keyboard, or you can press step into from here. When we start debugging, we have show form activity first. Show form activity is used to show the forms to users. Once you'll step into, you can see the form is appeared. Now, next activity is run local trigger. It starts all local triggers which monitors the events. Once you step in, you will notice a new workflow named Triggers.Generated workflow opens automatically. Now question arises, when does Triggers.Generated workflow appears? And answer is, it opens during debugging or execution, and it manages all the defined triggers in your project. You did not create this workflow. UiPath generated it automatically based on your triggers configurations. You can see this workflow only during the debug. You will not able to find it in your project. Now question arises, where can we find Triggers.Generated workflow? And answer is, it is available under .local/generated folder under your project folder. Let's open this project folder. And now here you cannot see .local folder. To see that folder, you need to write it in the address bar .local. Now you can see here these files and folders. There is a folder called generated. Open this and you can see here Triggers.Generated workflow is available here. Got it? Let's close it. Now let's move to Triggers.Generated workflow. UiPath creates this file to manage all the triggers. And it is very important to understand this workflow to see what happens behind the scene. Let me summarize how Triggers.Generated workflow works. We have multiple components of this workflow. First, you can see interruptible trigger initializer activity, which prepares the triggers, which initialize the triggers. Then the main structure is parallel activity. Parallel activity allows all the triggers to run simultaneously, and each branch of the parallel activity serves a specific purpose. Got it? In the first branch, we have listen for stop triggers activity and the assign activity. Listen for stop triggers activity monitors for any command or any event to stop or disable the triggers during the execution. It ensures we can stop triggers dynamically. So in the forms, if you click on exit and in the associated workflow, if we have added stop local trigger, then this workflow, this branch, the sequence will be executed. It will set the value, the boolean value, the stop triggers variable to true. And then in the associated workflow, we have close form activity and then stop local triggers activity is added. So form will be closed and the triggers will be stopped. Next, we have four more branches here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Each containing a trigger scope. And each scope is responsible for monitoring a specific trigger. For example, this trigger scope listens for the calculator event, calculator trigger. One scope listens for calculator clicked event. Another scope listens for exit click and so on. When that event is triggered, it invokes the related workflow. I hope you understood till this step. When the calculator clicked event is triggered, it invokes this calculator trigger.xml, which you can access it from here. And all these activities added here that will be executed. Let's step into. So first, interruptible trigger initializer, which will initialize the trigger. Now it enters into the parallel activity and then it starts checking all these branches. See, first this sequence, second this one. Now it starts checking all the activity. So let's say for the stop trigger, it's going to listen for the stop trigger. Now it's going to check for the calculator click event that trigger, then exit click trigger, then MS Pen trigger, and notepad. Now still we haven't sent any trigger, so it didn't find anything, so it didn't execute the corresponding action. Now we will click on notepad. Once you click on notepad, associated workflow opened automatically, which is inside the actions you see here. And now click on a step over, which will complete all these things. And you can see whatever written in this workflow that is executed. Go to output and see here all these logs. Now let's go step into. Now we are back to this triggers.generated. Now if we'll click on step into, nothing is going to happen here. Means it is now waiting for the triggers. It will wait for your events, your actions on the form. Now if I'll click on calculator, so you see here it automatically reaches to that trigger scope and then it has already started monitoring and it found that calculator button clicked. It has executed this, opened this workflow, and now click on step over and this is executed now. Okay, Now let's click on exit button, and now you will see here it will go here. It's going to open this. So it has already completed this part because it was opened here. Now we have already clicked on exit and this part is done. So form is closed. Stop local trigger is already requested, then stop local trigger is activated. Now it's going to exit from this workflow one by one. First it will exit from this branch. Let's go step over. So it has already completed one by one exit from all this branch. Now moving outside here. Now run local trigger. Now it will come to the main sequence and then last done. So we learned how run local trigger and stop local trigger activity works in UiPath Forms. Using the bookmark application form example, we explored the Triggers.Generated workflow. We explained its components and saw triggers in action during execution. We have also learned about trigger scope. If you enjoyed this tutorial, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Thank you for watching and I will see you in the next video.